You know what's funny about family dinners? Everyone shows up wearing their best mask. The perfect marriage. The successful career. The well-behaved kids. The financial stability. We pile our plates high with pot roast and mashed potatoes, and we pile our conversations even higher with absolute horse manure. But here's the thing about lies, they're like Jenga blocks. You can stack them pretty high, get real confident about your tower. But it only takes one person asking the wrong question, pulling the wrong block, and the whole damn thing comes crashing down. This is the story of the Henderson family's Sunday dinner on November 14, 2023. The night Grandpa Walter decided he was done playing nice. The night he took a wrecking ball to every carefully constructed lie around that mahogany table. 22 people. 1 roast chicken. And enough secrets to fill a confession booth for a year. By the time dessert was served, 3 marriages were hanging by a thread, 2 careers were circling the drain, 1 affair was exposed, and the family would never, ever, sit at that table the same way again. And Grandpa Walter? He enjoyed every single minute of it. Let me tell you how it went down. The Henderson house on Oakwood Drive was one of those places that looked like it jumped straight out of a Pottery Barn catalog. You know the type, tasteful gray paint, white trim, seasonal wreath on the door that got changed out like clockwork. The kind of house that screamed, "We have our lives together," from the curb. Sunday dinners had been a tradition for 30 years, ever since Grandpa Walter's wife Margaret, God rest her soul, had started them back in the early 90s. After Margaret passed 3 years ago, Walter kept the tradition alive, mostly because it was the only time he got to see his family all together. And boy, did he see them. At 84 years old, Walter Henderson had developed what his family called selective memory loss. They thought he couldn't remember names, got confused about dates. They were wrong. Walter's mind was sharp as a tack. What he had was something far more valuable, selective invisibility. When you're old, people stop watching what they say around you. They think you're deaf, senile, or just not paying attention. Walter was paying attention to everything. Today's guest list was impressive: his 3 children, their spouses, his 7 grandchildren, a few plus ones, and 1 surprise guest that would make things very interesting. First to arrive was his eldest son, Richard Henderson, 58, with his wife Patricia. Richard was a bank manager, or at least, that's what he told everyone. He pulled up in a BMW he definitely couldn't afford on a bank manager's salary, wearing a Rolex that raised some serious questions. "Dad!" Richard boomed, all confidence and cologne. "Looking good. How's that memory of yours?" "Oh, you know," Walter said with a gentle smile. "Can't remember what I had for breakfast. But I can remember some things. Some things are hard to forget." Richard laughed, missing the edge in his father's voice entirely. Next came Jennifer, the middle child, 45, with her husband Tom. Jennifer ran a successful real estate agency, at least that's what her Facebook said. The designer handbag she carried cost more than most people's monthly mortgage, and Tom had that glazed look of a man who checked out of his marriage about 5 years ago but hadn't figured out how to check out literally. "Daddy!" Jennifer air-kissed both of Walter's cheeks. "Sorry we're late. Showing a property this morning. A $4 million estate. Can you believe it?" "I can believe a lot of things, sweetheart," Walter said. "In fact, I've been believing things for quite a while now." Last came his youngest, Michael, 39, with his wife Sarah and their 3 kids. Michael was the entrepreneur, which seemed to be code for, I've had 17 different business ideas in 5 years and they've all failed. Sarah looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying a family financially while your husband chases pipe dreams. Pop, Michael said, giving him a one-armed hug while checking his phone. Hope you don't mind, I've got a business call I might need to take. Big investor. Could change everything. Take all the calls you need, son, Walter said. We've got all night. And trust me, things are definitely going to change. The house filled up fast. Grandchildren scattered to the den with iPads. Spouses clustered in the kitchen, pretending to help while actually gossiping. The men gathered in the living room, discussing sports with the enthusiasm of people avoiding real conversation. Walter sat in his chair by the fireplace, watching it all unfold like a conductor before a symphony. A symphony that was about to go very, very off-key. The doorbell rang one more time. I'll get it. Walter announced, moving faster than he had in months. He opened the door to reveal a woman in her early 50s, attractive, well-dressed, holding a bottle of wine and wearing an expression somewhere between nervous and determined. Everyone, Walter announced, leading her into the living room. I'd like you to meet Linda Morrison. She's going to be joining us for dinner. Richard's face went white. Patricia's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Jennifer suddenly became very interested in her phone. Linda works at Richard's bank, Walter continued cheerfully. We've been having the most interesting conversations. Haven't we, Linda? Linda smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Yes, Walter. Very interesting. Well. Walter clapped his hands. Let's eat, shall we? I'm starving. And I have so much to talk about. The dining room table could seat 20 comfortably, 24 if you squeezed. Tonight, it seated 22 people who were all about to get very uncomfortable. Walter had insisted on the seating arrangement himself. Strategic placement, he'd called it. Richard sat directly across from Linda. Jennifer was positioned next to her husband Tom, who was positioned next to Melissa, the 26-year-old paralegal from his firm. Michael sat between his wife Sarah and his brother Richard. The first course was a Caesar salad. Simple. Classic. A calm before the storm. So, Linda, Patricia said, her voice tight with forced politeness. How do you know Walter? Oh, I came by the house a few weeks ago, Linda said smoothly. We had some banking matters to discuss. Walter's been such a help sorting through some discrepancies. Richard coughed on his salad. Discrepancies? Jennifer asked. Just boring bank stuff, Richard interjected quickly. Dad probably doesn't even remember. Oh, I remember perfectly, Walter interrupted, his voice still cheerful but with an edge sharp enough to cut glass. In fact, my memory's been excellent lately. Crystal clear. It's the funniest thing, turned 84 and suddenly I'm remembering all sorts of details. Account numbers. Dates. Conversations I wasn't supposed to hear. The table went quiet except for the sound of forks on plates. Walter tells me you're in real estate, Jennifer, Linda said, smoothly changing the subject. Or so it seemed. Business must be booming. That's a beautiful Chanel bag. Jennifer touched her purse reflexively. Oh, yes. We've had an amazing year. Just closed on a huge commercial property. The commission alone was Strange, Walter mused, taking a slow sip of water. I ran into Bob Patterson at the grocery store last week. You remember Bob, don't you, Jennifer? Your broker. Jennifer's smile froze. Of course. He mentioned the market's been tough this year. Said most agents are down about 40%. But I told him, not my Jennifer. She's doing better than ever. That's what you said, right? Business is booming. The market's complicated, Daddy. Bob doesn't see all my deals. Walter nodded slowly. Must be those private deals you're doing. The ones that don't show up in the MLS. Very creative accounting. Tom suddenly became fascinated with his salad. Jennifer's face flushed red. Michael, sensing an opportunity to deflect attention, jumped in. Speaking of business, Pop, I've got incredible news. This investor I've been courting is about to drop $200,000 into my new venture. It's a crypto-based cryptocurrency. Walter's grandson Tyler, 16, piped up from the end of the table. Isn't that what you said about the last 3 investments? The NFT thing, the metaverse platform, and that weird energy drink for gamers? This is different, Michael said defensively. This is revolutionary. AI-integrated blockchain technology that. Where's the investor based? Walter asked innocently. Singapore. Have you met them in person? It's all virtual now, Dad. That's how business works. We've had dozens of Zoom calls. Aha. And how much have you invested so far? Of Sarah's money, I mean. Sarah's fork clattered against her plate. All eyes turned to her. It's our money, Michael said quickly. We're a team. Are you? Walter looked at Sarah with genuine sympathy. Sarah, honey, do you want to tell everyone what you told me when you came by last Tuesday? When you thought I was napping on the porch? Sarah's eyes widened. I didn't think you heard. I hear everything, dear. Including the part where you cried about the $65,000 Michael has invested in the last year. Including the part where you said you're working 60-hour weeks as a nurse while he chases unicorns. Including the part where you said if he pitches one more ground floor opportunity, you're moving to your mother's. The silence was deafening. Michael stared at his wife. You said that? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Mike, I'm exhausted. We're drowning in debt. Our kids need new shoes, but you just spent $3,000 on some cryptocurrency course. That's an investment in our future. We don't have a future if we lose the house. Walter nodded to himself and picked up his water glass. Well. Good thing we're just on salads. Can you imagine if I started talking during the main course? The roast chicken arrived on a silver platter, golden and glistening. Under any other circumstances, it would have been the star of the evening. Tonight, it was just set dressing for the real show. Walter stood up, carving knife in hand, and began slicing the bird with surgical precision. You know what I love about Sunday dinners, he said conversationally. Everyone comes together. One big, happy family. No secrets. No lies. Just good food and honest company. He paused, letting the irony hang in the air like smoke. Except that's not quite true, is it? There are secrets at this table. So many secrets. And lies. Oh boy. If lies were calories, we'd all be obese. Dad, Richard said carefully, maybe we should. White meat or dark, Richard? Oh wait, you prefer darker, don't you? That's what Linda tells me. Linda, who'd been quietly eating, now looked up with a small smile. Patricia's head snapped toward her husband. What is he talking about? Nothing, Richard said quickly. Dad's confused. Oh, I'm not confused. Walter served himself some chicken. I'm old, but I can still read bank statements. Especially when someone leaves them on my kitchen table. You remember, Richard? 3 months ago when you came by to check on me. Left your briefcase open while you used the bathroom. Richard had gone pale. Dad, please. There were withdrawals. Lots of them. Cash withdrawals from the business account. 10,000 here. 15,000 there. Always just under the reporting limit. Very clever. And next to those statements, there were receipts. Hotel receipts. Restaurants I know Patricia has never been to. Walter looked at his daughter-in-law. Patricia, honey, have you ever been to the Riverside Inn? Patricia's face was stone. No. Funny. Richard's been there 14 times in the last 6 months. Always room 304. Always checking in at 2 p.m., checking out at 5 p.m. Very efficient. This is insane, Richard sputtered. You're making up. Linda, Walter said calmly. Would you like to tell everyone how you and Richard met? Linda set down her fork. We worked together. Or rather, we did. I was branch manager until Richard got me fired 3 weeks ago. Apparently, I knew too much about his creative use of client funds to cover personal expenses. The bomb had been dropped. Patricia stood up so fast her chair fell backward. You son of a... Patricia, wait. Richard reached for her arm. She yanked it away. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. 30 years. 30 years I've stood by you. Raised your children. Looked the other way when you came home late smelling like perfume because I didn't want to know. And you were stealing. From your own clients. It's not stealing. It's borrowing. I was going to put it back. With what? The money you spent on hotel rooms? The grandchildren at the far end of the table were watching like it was a reality TV show. Jennifer tried to shield the younger one's ears, but they were having none of it. Well, Walter said pleasantly, passing the mashed potatoes. At least Richard and Patricia are communicating honestly now. That's healthy. Jennifer, how about you? Anything you'd like to share? About, oh, I don't know, where your money actually comes from. Jennifer's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Excuse me. Your real estate business. The one that's supposedly booming while every other agent is struggling. I got curious about those designer bags. Those luxury vacations you post on Instagram. That new Mercedes in your driveway. I work hard. I'm sure you do. But not selling houses. Walter pulled a piece of paper from his cardigan pocket. This is a screenshot. Your grandson Tyler helped me with it. Very tech-savvy, that boy. It's from a website called luxurylifecoach.com. Your website. Jennifer's face went from red to white in seconds. Apparently, you sell a course. From broke to bespoke, how I made 6 figures in 6 months. Costs $997. You sell it to desperate people who think you're a successful real estate agent. Except you haven't sold a house in 8 months. Tom was staring at his wife like he'd never seen her before. What the hell is he talking about? It's not a scam. Jennifer protested. I provide value. I teach people. You teach people to do exactly what you're doing, create a fake persona of success to sell courses to other people trying to create fake personas of success. It's a pyramid scheme with extra steps and better photography. Tom, I can explain. But Tom was already standing up. You told me your real estate business was supporting us. You told me to quit my job because we didn't need the money. I walked away from a career because you said we were set. We are set. The course makes money. It makes money by lying. By pretending to be something you're not. Walter served himself some green beans. These are excellent. Sarah, did you make these? Sarah, who'd been watching the carnage with a mix of horror and satisfaction, nodded mutely. You're a wonderful cook. And a wonderful nurse. And a wonderful mother. It's a shame your husband doesn't appreciate any of that. Michael slammed his hand on the table. That's not fair. I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to give my family a better life. By losing their money. It's not lost. It's invested. In what? Let me ask you something, son. Walter leaned forward. This Singapore investor. What's their name? David. Chen. David Chen. And you verified this person exists how? We've had video calls. Have you? Or have you had calls with someone sitting in front of a green screen? Have you met anyone in person? Has anyone else in your investment group met him? Or have you all just been passing money around in a circle, each one convinced they're about to be millionaires? Sarah was crying now. I tried to tell him. I tried to tell him it didn't feel right. But you didn't listen, did you, Michael? Because listening would mean admitting you've been chasing fool's gold while your wife works herself into exhaustion. Michael's face crumpled. I just wanted to. I wanted to be successful like Richard. Like Jennifer. I wanted Dad to be proud. Successful like Richard, who embezzles from his clients. Successful like Jennifer, who scams vulnerable people. That's what you want. The words hung in the air like a slap. You know what's funny? Walter said, surveying the wreckage of his family. You all think I brought Linda here to expose Richard. You think I brought up Jennifer's scam and Michael's delusions to embarrass you. But that's not why I did it. He looked around the table at his 3 children, all successful on paper, all disasters in reality. I did it because you're teaching your children that lies are normal. That success means appearance, not substance. That family means showing up for dinner and pretending everything's fine. He turned to his grandson Tyler. Tyler, you're 16. Tell me something. What do you want to be when you grow up? Tyler, caught off guard, stammered. I don't know. Sure you do. But you're afraid to say it because it's not impressive enough, right? Not like being a banker or a real estate mogul or an entrepreneur. What do you actually want to do? Tyler looked at his parents, Richard and Patricia, still glaring at each other, then back at his grandfather. I want to be a teacher. History teacher. A teacher. Walter beamed. That's wonderful. That's honest work. That's helping people. Why haven't you told your parents? Because Dad says teachers don't make enough money. He says I should go into finance. Finance, like him. Walter looked at Richard. You want your son to follow in your footsteps? To learn how to steal from clients and cheat on his wife? Richard flinched like he'd been hit. Walter moved on to Jennifer's daughter, Emma. Emma, you dropped out of college last year. Why? Emma glanced at her mother. Mom said college was a waste. She said I should start my own business, build my brand. Sell your soul, more like, Walter said. Your mother wants you to become a con artist, Emma. Is that what you want? No. Emma's voice was small. I wanted to finish my nursing degree. I wanted to work with kids. Then do it. Don't let your mother's delusions become your cage. He looked at Michael's eldest daughter, Sophie, 14. Sophie, I heard you crying in the bathroom before dinner. What's wrong? Sophie's eyes filled with tears. I didn't think anyone heard. I hear everything, sweetheart. Talk to Grandpa. Mom and Dad fight all the time. About money. About Dad's businesses that never work. I heard Mom say she might leave. I'm scared our family is going to break apart. Sarah let out a sob. Michael reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Your family is breaking apart, Walter said gently but firmly. Not because of money. Because of lies. Because your father can't admit when he's wrong. Because your mother can't ask for help. Because everyone's pretending everything is fine when it's not. He stood up, surveying the table, the crying spouses, the angry children, the shocked grandchildren. Every single adult at this table has been lying. To themselves. To each other. To me. And I'm done watching it. I'm 84 years old. I don't have time for bull anymore. The apple pie sat untouched on the sideboard. Nobody had any appetite, but nobody left either. They were glued to their seats, waiting to see what Walter would do next. He didn't disappoint. Now, Walter said, sitting back down with a fresh cup of coffee. Here's what's going to happen. Richard, you're going to call your boss tomorrow morning and confess to what you've done. You're going to return every penny you've taken, even if it means selling that BMW and that ridiculous watch. Then you're going to check yourself into therapy because you clearly have some issues to work through. Richard opened his mouth to protest, but Walter held up a hand. I'm not done. Patricia, you're going to decide if this marriage is worth saving. And if it is, you're both going to counseling. If it's not, you're getting the best divorce lawyer in town, and I'm paying for it. Your choice. But no more pretending. Patricia nodded, tears streaming down her face. Jennifer. Walter's voice softened slightly. You're going to shut down that website. You're going to refund every person who bought your course in the last 6 months. Yes, I know it'll wipe out your savings. Then you're going to get a real job. Any job. Even if it means working retail while you rebuild your real estate career. And you're going to do it honestly this time. Dad, I have bills. We all have bills. That's not an excuse to steal from desperate people. Tom, you're going to support your wife while she rebuilds, or you're going to leave. But you're not going to sit in that house playing martyr while secretly resenting her. Make a choice and stick to it. Michael. Walter's voice was almost sad now. Son, you're going to get a job. A real job. I don't care if it's driving for Uber or working at Home Depot. Something that brings in steady money while you pay back your wife every penny you've lost chasing dreams. Sarah deserves a partner, not a child. But my investor. There is no investor. It's a scam. You've been scammed, and you're too proud to admit it. That's the problem, Michael. It's not that you failed. Everyone fails. It's that you can't admit you failed, so you keep throwing good money. Michael's shoulders slumped in defeat. Now, Walter continued. I've made some calls this week. I sold some stocks, my money, not yours, so don't get excited. I've set up trust funds for each of my grandchildren. Not huge amounts. But enough for college, or trade school, or starting an honest business someday. The money goes directly to them when they turn 25. Not a penny goes through any of you. He looked at his 3 children. You're not getting a dime of my estate when I die. Not one dime. I'm leaving it all to your kids because I trust them more than I trust you. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe that makes me a bad father. But I'd rather be a bad father than watch my grandchildren grow up thinking lies or love and appearance is success. The room was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. But here's the good news, Walter said, his voice gentler now. You can change. You're not doomed to be liars forever. Richard, you were a good kid once. You wanted to help people, that's why you went into banking. Find that kid again. Jennifer, you used to be passionate about helping first-time homebuyers find their dream homes. Remember that? Before the designer bags and the Instagram persona. That person is still in there. Michael, you're smart and creative, those aren't bad qualities. But you need to channel them into something real instead of get-rich-quick schemes. He stood up, slowly, his 84 years showing in the way he gripped the table for support. I love all of you. I love you so much it hurts. And that's why I did this. Not to hurt you. Not to embarrass you. But because love means telling the truth even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Walter shuffled toward the door, then paused and turned back. Oh, and one more thing. Next Sunday dinner. You're all invited again. Same time. And I expect you here. But here's the rule, no lies. Not about your job. Not about your marriage. Not about your finances. We're going to sit around this table and tell the truth for once. The whole truth. And maybe, just maybe, we can start being a real family again instead of a bunch of actors playing family. He walked out, leaving 22 people sitting in stunned silence around a table full of cold food and exposed secrets. Sunday dinner, 6 months later, looked different. Richard was there, but not Patricia. They were separated, working through a divorce that was surprisingly amicable. Richard had confessed to his crimes, made restitution, and miraculously avoided jail time by paying everything back and entering a diversion program. He'd lost his job but found work as a financial counselor for people struggling with debt. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. He drove a Honda Civic now and seemed lighter. Jennifer was there with Tom. She'd refunded her course buyers, all 47 of them, and taken a job at a local real estate office. She wasn't making 6 figures, but she'd sold 3 houses last month honestly. She wore less makeup. Carried a Target bag instead of Chanel. Smiled more. Michael was there with Sarah. He was working 2 jobs, one at Home Depot, one driving for Uber. Sarah had cut her hours back to 40 per week. They'd started marriage counseling. The kids seemed happier. Michael talked less and listened more. The grandchildren seemed different too. Less anxious. More open. Tyler had announced he was applying to education programs. Emma had re-enrolled in nursing school. Sophie had stopped crying herself to sleep. And Walter? Walter sat at the head of the table, carving another roast chicken, smiling at his broken, honest, rebuilding family. "So," he said cheerfully. "Who wants to say grace? And remember, no lies. Not even polite ones." There was a pause. Then Michael raised his hand. "I'll do it." He took a breath. "Dear God, thank you for this food. Thank you for this family. Thank you for Grandpa being a pain in the ass who loves us enough to tell us the truth. Please help us keep being honest even when it sucks. Amen." "Amen," everyone echoed. And for the first time in years, they actually meant it. So, what's the moral of this story? Maybe it's that lies, even small ones, even polite ones, are termites. They eat away at the foundation of your family until one day the whole structure collapses. Maybe it's that being old doesn't mean being irrelevant. Sometimes the person everyone dismisses is the only one really paying attention. Or maybe it's just this: love without honesty isn't love. It's performance. And performances end. Truth. Truth is the only foundation worth building on. The Henderson family wasn't perfect after that dinner. They still struggled. Still fought. Still disappointed each other sometimes. But they stopped lying. And that made all the difference. Thank you for listening to this story. If it made you think about your own family dinners, your own secrets, your own carefully constructed masks, good. That means you're paying attention. If you enjoyed this story and want more like it, stories that don't pull punches, that make you uncomfortable in the best way, that remind you what really matters, please subscribe to this channel. We're building a community of people who believe truth matters more than comfort. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below about a time someone in your family told you a hard truth that changed everything. Your stories matter too. And remember, next Sunday dinner, skip the lies. They're harder to digest than Aunt Carol's dry turkey anyway. Until next time, stay honest, stay real, and keep showing up for the people who matter. God bless.